These podcasts are very strange because they're just conversations. And oftentimes I have no idea what I'm going to talk about until I sit down and talk to people. And that's why some of my ideas are not that prepared or fleshed out, because I'm literally having them in real time. But I do my best, and they're just conversations. And I think that's also the appeal of the show. It's one of the things that makes it interesting.
Okay, so Joe Rogan released that vlog filmed from far too low of an angle, addressing the Spotify controversy, and we're going to touch on various elements of it. It was about 10 minutes long, which one of our producers, Marissa, watched its entirety, so apologies for that, Marissa. But I think, Francesca, it's safe to say that we're going to disagree with him on a lot. But before we do that, let's test out what he just said there, okay? It's just a conversation. It's unscripted. I'm just having conversations, so I don't always know exactly what's going to be said or have my facts in order. I just want to have these conversations. That's the appeal. Is that fair?
I think it could be if he were a podcaster like me with only, a few thousand downloads an episode. Everyone check out the Bitchuation Room. JK, this is not about me, but he has one of the biggest, if not the biggest podcasts in the country. And so I'm sorry, but there is a responsibility to get your facts straight. There is a responsibility to do a little bit of research. God knows you can afford it. You don't even have to do it. You can get a team of people to help you write questions, right? And here's what I will say about Rogan. He is a perfect vessel for someone who is largely apolitical, who does not maybe understand all the ins and outs of issues, or like maybe doesn't know a trans person specifically, but will listen to Rogan talk and wax openly about it, and or have Gavin McInnes, Jordan Peterson, a number of far right figures come onto the show as he open-mindedly, in air quotes, asks him, yeah, isn't it crazy that race is, just like black people aren't like actually black. They're not like, black like an obsidian rock, like da 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 da. And that is actually a vessel for some really, really malignant thinking. And because he's so open-ended about it and freewheeling about it, it's almost more insidious versus if he did his homework and research and had a little bit of pushback. And I would also argue with the premise that everything's an open conversation, because we've seen him push back on people who fact check him live. He does not like that.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And I have a lot of problems with what he said for a few different. First of all, there is I think there should be more responsibility, as you pointed out, when you have a larger audience. I understand if he doesn't like that. Well, you generate the audience. You want the money from that, so you should take the responsibility too. I think that should be on you. It also is like, we don't prep equally here for every topic. If we randomly had Emma on and we started debating The Last Jedi, I'm not gonna have a ton of elements prepared because the stakes are low. You choose what sorts of things you talk about, in large part by choosing who you bring on. If you're just gonna talk about movie opinions and stuff like that, then I don't think people are gonna be too worried about your level of prep. But you want to talk about COVID, and you want to talk about like the trans community. You choose to talk about things you don't seem to understand very well that are very consequential, that can not only harm the individual making the unfortunately often regrettable decision to consume the content. If it was just that, look, there's tons of shows that make the people who listen to them worse. But when it's COVID, they can kill other people. That's the big issue, and he doesn't really seem to understand that. Well, one other thing really fast too, and I think you sort of alluded to this in what you said, Francesca, about him not necessarily having the best grasp of a lot of this political stuff and everything. I get that, and I think it's accurate, and it's very often said about him. At what point should we be able to stop saying that? Yeah. The guy's been doing this show for years and years and years. He's had on hundreds and hundreds of guests. Is there a single person outside of maybe Larry King that's been exposed to more information? At a certain point, are you just like either purposefully not absorbing it or just like biologically incapable of it? And by the way, some of it is by choice. If you choose to have Alex Jones on multiple times and Jordan Peterson on multiple times and Dave Rubin on multiple times, any one of those could have been a scientist. Any one of those could have been a trans activist. Any one of those could have been something that would actually expand your mind. And the show often sells itself as being willing to talk about anything and going in any direction, but frequently it seems to go in a right-wing direction. It is not nearly as broad and mind-opening as it bills itself as on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. What you said. How are you not absorbing? You have access to all the celebrities. You have access to politicians. You have access to so many people. People will go on your show and truly expand your mind, but you can't imagine it because you're too busy peddling in the idea that trans kids are somehow part of like parental child abuse. Oh yeah, real open-minded, bro, real open-minded.
Yeah, he chooses the people that he wants to have on. That's what. And by the way, none of this is, well, do you guys just want to cancel? No, I don't want him to be taken off of the air. I think if people want to push for that because they feel that he's harming communities, I think that they're perfectly free to be able to do that. The only thing where I get into anything that could even be in the neighborhood of censorship is when you are giving people medical advice you're not qualified to give that will result in them killing other people. I think that should be right out. And by the way, maybe I'm gonna get attacked from the opposite side by saying what I wish could be the response to this is what the solution should be to all of this, whether it's transphobia, the anti-science stuff, or platforming right-wingers and neo-Nazis and conspiracy theorists is, I wish we had a society of people who cared whether the things they were told are true, that actually wanted to listen to open-minded people. I wish that all of the things that many Rogan listeners say is true about them and their relationship to the show was actually true. But we don't live in that world, and most people don't care about this. They say they want authenticity, they say they want to be exposed to new ideas, they say a lot of things, and a lot of it unfortunately isn't true. I wish we were better. If we were better, Joe Rogan would have an audience. It would be 10,000 people. And it'd be fine. He'd get to have the conversations he'd want. He wouldn't need the 100 million from Spotify because dude's been rich for decades at this point. I wish that was the solution that we had. Anyway.
Break up big tech. I mean, and this is sort of the racket of like, who can book big guests and like, Spotify gave Rogan 300 million when he didn't even need that money. Like he was great. He was fine before their money. They just wanted a piece of the action.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're talking about. And again, in our look, I take a little issue with this as an artist, and I know we're gonna get into this, but as a comic, as someone who has their own podcast, the folks who always get the most opportunities for all those who are like affirmative actions, giving the wrong people, put that aside. They're all the ones who are doing fine. It's always like, hey, does Chrissy Teigen need another new show on a new thing? Because I think she might, or like, it's always the people who are already famous and already wealthy and already totally cool, who most brands want to like get on board because they want safe bets. They want stuff that's already going to make them money. So just broadly in entertainment, it sucks. Folks are not supporting new faces, new voices. They're not taking chances because corporations don't take chances, and that applies to entertainment as well.
Agreed. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.